The Temple Mount in Jerusalem has never been excavated, but an illegal construction project 20 years ago opened the door to some major discoveries.
Beneath the sacred stones of the Temple Mount, scientists stumbled upon something no one was prepared for. What was supposed to be a careful exploration of history quickly turned into a discovery that rattled the foundations of faith, politics, and even science itself.
Why the Temple Mount is so important to Jews, Christians, Muslims, to the entire world.
Some say it could rewrite the story of humanity. Others whisper it should never have been uncovered at all. What exactly did they find inside, and why should it terrify the world? A secret beneath sacred stone.
It's a mystery of Jerusalem. We head deep beneath the Western Wall.
The Temple Mount has always carried an aura of mystery. Rising above the old city of Jerusalem, it is more than just a site of worship. It is a symbol of power, devotion, and tension that stretches back thousands of years. Jews believe it was the place where Solomon's temple once stood. Muslims revere it as the site of the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock, and Christians see it as woven into their own sacred history. To walk across its grounds is to walk on layers of devotion, conflict, and legend.
Why the Temple Mount is so important to Jews, Christians, Muslims, to the entire world.
But what if the stories carved into this ancient hilltop are only part of the truth? What if, hidden just beneath the stones, there are secrets capable of shaking not just one religion, but all of them? That's the question that has left scientists, historians, and even governments deeply unsettled after recent explorations hinted at findings that go far beyond the expected. For centuries, the Temple Mount has been fiercely protected by tradition, by politics, and by sheer reverence. Digging beneath it is nearly unthinkable.
And beneath the Western Wall of the Temple Mount, that biblical history dating back thousands of years.
Yet, whispers have circulated for generations, rumors of sealed chambers, ancient artifacts, and mysteries that predate the very texts upon which entire civilizations have been built. These whispers have always been easy to dismiss as legend, myth, or conspiracy. Until now, scientists did not step into the Temple Mount expecting to uncover something that would terrify the world. Their mission, on the surface, was simple: study, preserve, and perhaps confirm what history books already suggested. Yet what they encountered beneath the sacred stones felt less like an archaeological dig and more like stepping into a story humanity was never meant to read.
But these stones were removed during archaeology to get down to the street level that you see here.
And it is this uneasy feeling that certain truths are too explosive to be revealed that makes the Temple Mount so much more than an archaeological site. It becomes, instead, a crossroads between belief and knowledge, where discovery is not just exciting but dangerous. Imagine standing in a place where every stone is a relic, every tunnel a passageway into the unknown, and every silence holds the weight of millennia. Imagine realizing that what lies hidden may not fit neatly into any narrative humanity has built for itself. Why does this matter so much? Because the Temple Mount is not just sacred ground, it is contested ground. Every inch of it is watched, guarded, and debated by nations, religions, and scholars alike. To find something here that challenges accepted history is not simply an academic matter. It is a spark thrown into dry kindling. The implications reach far beyond science. They ripple into faith, politics, and even global security. And yet, there's another layer to the story: fear. Not just the fear of what was found, but the fear of what it might mean. Some discoveries are so profound, so unexpected, that they don't just answer questions, they demand new ones. Questions that people might not be ready to ask. Questions that could unravel traditions held sacred for thousands of years. Questions that, once spoken aloud, cannot be taken back. This is why the Temple Mount stands apart from other ancient sites. The Great Pyramids, Stonehenge, Machu Picchu. These places awe us, mystify us, and spark debate. But the Temple Mount? It is different. Because here, any discovery, no matter how small,
beneath one of the most sacred places on Earth, the Temple Mount,
carries a weight that could shift the balance of belief across the world. Scientists know this. Leaders know this. And so, when something extraordinary is found beneath its stones, the reaction is not celebration, it is unease. As we step into this story, keep in mind one thing. History isn't always about what we know. Sometimes, it's about what we're not allowed to know. The Temple Mount holds more than stone, soil, and ancient ruins. It holds the power to unsettle the very foundations of human certainty. And now, for the first time, the world is beginning to glimpse what lies beneath. What lies hidden? Picture yourself walking across the Temple Mount on a quiet morning. The air is still, heavy with the weight of history. Tourists shuffle with cameras, worshippers bow their heads in prayer, and guards watch from every corner. To the untrained eye, it looks like just another sacred plaza, paved in ancient stone. But beneath your feet, hidden from ordinary view, lies a maze of secrets that few people have ever seen. For decades, archaeologists have whispered about what might be buried below. Ancient tunnels rumored to stretch like veins under the city. Forgotten chambers sealed tight, untouched for centuries. Even entire rooms carved into bedrock, their purpose long erased from memory. To many, these sound like legends, convenient tales used to explain the Temple Mount's magnetic aura of mystery. But those who have ventured into the underground passages insist the stories are not just myth. They are real, and they are stranger than anyone imagined. The descent into these passages feels less like archaeology and more like trespassing into another world. Narrow corridors, carved out of stone, snake downward, their walls damp with the breath of centuries. Lights cast weak glows against inscriptions no one fully understands. Dust thickens in the air, as if the earth itself is reluctant to give up its secrets. For scientists stepping into this space, the first sensation isn't excitement. It's awe, followed quickly by unease. It starts with the sheer scale. Beneath the Temple Mount isn't just a handful of tunnels, it's an intricate underworld, layered like a hidden city.
We're climbing upstairs, then in a tunnel. Most of the tunnel is uphill.
Some passages align perfectly with the descriptions of biblical architecture, suggesting connections to the first and second temples. Others, however, don't fit any known pattern. Walls cut at odd angles, rooms too vast to serve obvious functions, and stairways leading nowhere, as though built for a purpose long forgotten. Then there are the objects. Scientists report finding artifacts that don't always line up with the timelines we've been taught. Fragments of pottery marked with symbols that don't match known Hebrew or Arabic scripts. Stones inscribed with patterns that seem geometric, almost mathematical, as if created to convey something more than language. Even traces of metal in places where no record of metallurgy should exist. Each discovery adds to a mounting sense that the Temple Mount is not just a sacred site, it's a vault of human history, with layers that might stretch back far before biblical accounts. Yet the most haunting part isn't the artifacts or architecture, it's the silence. Many chambers appear deliberately sealed, as though whoever built them wanted to lock something away. Heavy stone blocks fit so precisely they could withstand thousands of years of earthquakes, wars, and invasions. Why go to such lengths? What could be so dangerous or so sacred that it must remain hidden forever? This question haunts not only scientists, but also the religious authorities who control access to the site. Excavations here are strictly monitored, often halted, and sometimes outright forbidden. Part of it is political. Every action taken on the Temple Mount can spark international conflict, but part of it is something deeper, harder to explain. Almost as if those in power fear what might be uncovered. Almost as if they know that some discoveries are too powerful to reveal. One scientist who participated in a quiet survey described the feeling bluntly. It was like the walls themselves were watching us. Another recalled the sudden drop in temperature while entering a chamber sealed for centuries, describing it not as the chill of stone, but as a presence. These are not the kinds of observations that make it into academic journals, but they linger in the minds of those who step into the Mount's underground world, leaving them changed. And perhaps that is why so little of this is spoken about openly. The Temple Mount isn't just a monument to the past, it is an active mystery, a living enigma that pushes back against those who try to uncover it. Every stone unearthed seems to raise more questions than answers. Every passage leads deeper into uncertainty. What lies beneath the Temple Mount is not simply history waiting to be catalogued. It is history that resists explanation, that unsettles the very people who try to study it. And for those who dare to descend into its hidden chambers, one realization always rises to the surface. Beneath these sacred stones, humanity has barely scratched the surface of what waits to be discovered. However, why was it considered a mount that is untouchable? The Forbidden Dig. If the discoveries beneath the Temple Mount are so extraordinary, why don't we hear about them in the news every day? Why aren't archaeologists publishing pages of findings in glossy journals, unveiling one shocking artifact after another? The answer is simple. Digging beneath the Temple Mount isn't just archaeology, it's political dynamite. Every stone turned over here risks igniting a firestorm. For centuries, attempts to excavate the mount have been blocked, challenged, or carried out in near secrecy. Religious authorities tightly guard access, governments weigh the risks of unrest, and scientists are caught in the middle, forced to tread carefully. This is not an ordinary dig site. It is the most contested religious ground on Earth. At the heart of the conflict lies ownership. Jews revere the Temple Mount as the site of Solomon's Temple and the Second Temple, the very heart of their ancient worship. Muslims see it as sacred ground where the Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven, home to the Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque. Christians, too, have deep connections here, tracing the footsteps of Jesus through Jerusalem. To suggest digging beneath these structures is to risk offending billions of believers around the world. It's not just about faith, it's about power. Whoever controls the Temple Mount holds symbolic authority that stretches far beyond Jerusalem. That's why every rumor of excavation is met with suspicion, protests, and sometimes even violence. The fear is that a single discovery could tilt the scales of legitimacy. Proof of one tradition's claims could be seen as invalidating another's. And so, to preserve a fragile balance, digging is all but forbidden. Still, that hasn't stopped everyone. Over the decades, there have been whispers of unauthorized digs, secret surveys, and nighttime operations conducted under heavy guard. Some of these efforts were driven by religious zeal, desperate attempts to find relics like the Ark of the Covenant or remnants of Solomon's Temple. Others were fueled by academic curiosity, the dream of uncovering a history the world has only glimpsed through sacred texts. And then there are those who claim governments themselves have sanctioned hidden excavations, quietly searching for knowledge too dangerous to share. But secrecy comes at a cost. When archaeologists are forced to work behind closed doors, findings are rarely published, and speculation fills the gaps. Rumors spiral into legends, glowing chambers that resist photography, artifacts whisked away before they can be studied, scrolls that vanish into private collections. Without transparency, truth and myth blur together until it's nearly impossible to separate them. The tension reached a boiling point in the 20th century. Several excavation attempts led to public outcry, with religious groups accusing scientists of desecration. Protests erupted, clashes broke out, and the message became clear. The Temple Mount is not just holy ground, it is untouchable ground. From then on, even the faintest hint of digging carried with it the weight of political crisis. And yet, scientists can't help but wonder, why is there so much fear of excavation? If nothing lies beneath the mount but old stone, why the strict bans? Why the secrecy? Some believe the fear is practical. No authority wants to be blamed for sparking conflict. Others whisper that leaders already know something is buried down there, something that could destabilize not just Jerusalem, but the entire world. Imagine the possibilities. A relic that proves one scripture's story and challenges another's. An artifact of such immense historical weight that it redefines timelines. or even evidence of civilizations that existed long before any known religion, raising questions nobody wants to confront. Any of these would be enough to fracture fragile peace, to send shockwaves through faith communities, and to reshape global politics overnight. This is why scientists tread carefully, often limiting themselves to surface studies or digital scans rather than direct excavation. But the frustration is clear. They know something waits below. They've seen enough to suspect hidden chambers, sealed vaults, and artifacts older than recorded history. Yet the gatekeepers of the Temple Mount insist the risks are too great, the stakes too high. The Temple Mount isn't just untouchable because it's sacred. It's untouchable because it is dangerous. Not in the sense of collapsing tunnels or unstable ground, but in the sense that truth itself can be dangerous. To dig here is to gamble with history, faith, and even global stability. And so, beneath the world's watchful eyes, the Mount remains largely sealed, guarding its secrets in silence. But silence never lasts forever. And sometimes, the very act of forbidding something only makes the world more determined to uncover it. Which leads to a haunting question. If digging is so dangerous, what could possibly lie beneath that stone plateau? What is so powerful, so threatening, that even the idea of discovery terrifies nations? Relics of a lost civilization. When most people think of the Temple Mount, they imagine biblical kings, prophets, and sacred rituals. The site is firmly tied to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, each with its own deep claims to its history. But here's the unsettling twist. Some of the finds beneath the Mount don't neatly match any of those traditions. Instead, they whisper of something older, something that shouldn't exist there at all. Among the fragments unearthed in surveys and whispered about by researchers are stones marked with symbols unlike any recognized script from the region. Not Hebrew, not Aramaic, not Greek, not Arabic. Instead, they appear geometric, repetitive, almost mathematical, like a code or language from a people long forgotten. Some scholars speculate these markings could represent an early proto-writing system, predating known alphabets by centuries, maybe millennia. If true, this suggests that the Temple Mount was not just sacred to later religions, but had meaning to a civilization far older. It doesn't end with symbols. Carved stones hint at structures far below the current foundations, cut in styles that don't match the architectural fingerprints of Israelite, Roman, or Islamic builders. Blocks that fit so tightly together, they resist even a knife's edge sliding between them. Some resemble the megalithic constructions seen in places like Baalbek, in Lebanon, or even South America's mysterious sites, monuments so precise and massive that scholars still argue over how they were built. Could it be that the Temple Mount stands not on the ruins of Solomon's temple alone, but on something far more ancient? Pottery shards and metallic traces add to the puzzle. Analysis of certain samples reportedly shows techniques or alloys that shouldn't have existed in that period of Middle Eastern history. Metals that require high-heat smelting processes centuries ahead of their time. If authentic, this points not just to forgotten craftsmanship, but to advanced knowledge lost to history. Naturally, skeptics argue these are misinterpretations, coincidences, or even modern contaminations mixed into ancient soil. And yet, the whispers persist. Too many anomalies surface, too many out-of-place artifacts discovered just beneath the stones. Each one challenges the neat timelines historians and theologians have worked so hard to preserve. What terrifies people isn't simply that these objects exist, it's what they imply. If a lost civilization once thrived here, then the Temple Mount isn't just holy ground for Abrahamic faiths. It's a site of global significance, a puzzle piece in humanity's forgotten prehistory. The idea that the world's most contested religious site could also hide evidence of an entirely different culture is enough to unsettle both scholars and believers. Consider the parallels. In other parts of the world, evidence of advanced ancient civilizations has often been dismissed or downplayed because it doesn't fit accepted narratives. The ruins of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, for example, rewrote history books when discovered. Massive stone structures dating back over 11,000 years, long before agriculture was supposed to exist. If the Temple Mount hides something similar, it would not just rewrite the story of the Middle East, but potentially the story of civilization itself. And this is where fear creeps in. For religions built on sacred timelines, discovering evidence of an older, unknown culture beneath their holiest site would raise unsettling questions. Were these earlier builders worshipping a different god or something else entirely? Were they erased from history deliberately? And if so, why? The sealed chambers beneath the mount only deepen the mystery. Some scientists believe these rooms hold not just artifacts, but entire archives of forgotten knowledge, inscriptions, objects, perhaps even burial sites. To open them would be to step into an era we barely acknowledge. To leave them closed is to live with the suspicion that the ground beneath one of the holiest sites on Earth is also the resting place of an erased civilization. And yet, the possibility remains. Every rumor of strange carvings, every story of artifacts whisked away before the public could see them, adds weight to the suspicion that the Temple Mount is much more than a biblical site. It may be a bridge between our known history and something humanity has desperately tried to forget. If that's true, then the Temple Mount isn't just sacred, it's a vault of prehistory. And perhaps that is the real reason why digging beneath it feels forbidden. Because to uncover relics of a lost civilization here would not just challenge faith, it would challenge everything we think we know about the rise of humanity itself. The Ark connection, myth or reality? No relic captures the imagination quite like the Ark of the Covenant. Said to be the golden chest that held the Ten Commandments, it has been described as both the throne of God and a vessel of terrifying power. Ancient texts tell of it leveling armies, striking down the unworthy, and radiating a force so great that even touching it could mean instant death. For centuries, adventurers, kings, and even modern governments have sought it. And for just as long, one rumor has persisted. The Ark rests beneath the Temple Mount. The connection isn't without foundation. According to Jewish tradition, the Ark was kept in the Holy of Holies within Solomon's temple. When the Babylonians destroyed the temple in 586 BCE, the Ark vanished from history. Some believe it was carried to Ethiopia, others that it was hidden in caves. But the most enduring theory is that it was concealed beneath the temple itself, locked away in chambers no invader could reach. If that is true, then the Temple Mount is not just a sacred site. It is the hiding place of the most dangerous artifact in human history. Scientists and archaeologists who have probed the underground chambers of the Mount whisper about sealed vaults so carefully constructed they seem designed for eternal protection. Smooth stone corridors end abruptly in walls too thick to penetrate. Some sections appear deliberately reinforced, as if the builders knew what they were hiding would one day attract desperate seekers. The secrecy alone has fueled speculation that something of immense importance was placed there, not just to preserve it, but to keep it out of reach. And then there are the stranger reports. Researchers who have brought instruments into certain tunnels claim to have recorded unusual readings, spikes of radiation, magnetic disturbances, and sudden equipment failures. These anomalies are difficult to explain with conventional science. Some suggest it could be natural geological phenomena, perhaps mineral deposits interfering with sensors, but others believe it could be exactly what ancient texts describe, the dangerous energy of the Ark itself. Legends align disturbingly with these accounts. Biblical passages describe the Ark emitting a fiery glow, destroying those who mishandled it, and even causing plagues among enemy nations. To the modern mind, these could be metaphors or they could be descriptions of something real, something physical and potentially catastrophic. If the Ark truly exists beneath the Temple Mount, then scientists are not just dealing with a priceless artifact, but with a force they may not understand or control. This possibility terrifies both religious leaders and governments. To believers, confirming the Ark's presence would be world-shaking. It would validate ancient scripture in an undeniable way, but it could also unleash chaos. Questions of who has the right to claim it, how it should be used, and whether humanity is even worthy to touch it. To scientists, the Ark represents an enigma. Is it divine? Or could it be an ancient form of technology, a device whose workings are far beyond our comprehension? Either answer is terrifying in its own way. Stories from history add fuel to the fire. In the Middle Ages, crusaders were rumored to have searched beneath the mount for the Ark, convinced they were on the brink of uncovering it. Some secret societies, like the Knights Templar, are still said to have carried away knowledge or even relics from their time guarding the site. Whether myth or truth, these legends only reinforce the sense that beneath the Temple Mount lies not just stone and soil, but something world-altering. And yet, no one dares to dig openly. Because if the Ark is truly there, what happens the moment it is revealed? Wars have been fought over far less. Entire nations might claim ownership. Religious groups could see it as validation or as a threat. And if it is more than just a symbolic relic, if it truly holds power, then humanity may find itself in possession of something it is not ready to wield. For now, the Ark remains a mystery, its resting place hidden by silence and stone. But the possibility that it lies beneath the Temple Mount lingers like a shadow over every excavation, every forbidden survey, every whispered discovery. The question isn't just whether the Ark is real, it's whether we should ever try to find it. Because sometimes, myths remain myths for a reason. What if the mysteries beneath the Temple Mount aren't just objects or chambers? What if they are words, secrets written long ago that were never meant to be seen? Writings that shouldn't exist. Beneath the golden dome that glitters over Jerusalem, rumors swirl of writings that were never meant to see the light of day. The Dome of the Rock, built over the sacred foundation stone, sits at the very heart of the Temple Mount, a place layered with centuries of worship, conflict, and secrecy. Yet, for some scholars and believers alike, its beauty conceals something far more unsettling. Hidden texts sealed away when the temples fell, deliberately buried to protect or perhaps to hide forbidden knowledge. Whispers of these writings have lingered for centuries. Some claim scrolls were hurriedly concealed as Babylonian soldiers descended on the first temple, containing alternate versions of sacred laws or prophecies too dangerous to preserve in plain sight. Others insist that during the chaos of the Roman destruction of the Second Temple, priests spirited away texts that contradicted official scripture, hiding them in underground chambers beneath what is now the Dome of the Rock. The intrigue grows sharper when compared to the Dead Sea Scrolls, discovered in Qumran caves in the mid-20th century. Those scrolls contained variant readings of biblical texts, apocalyptic visions, and teachings once deemed heretical. If such startling material could survive in desert caves, what might still be locked beneath the very foundation of Jerusalem's holiest site? Could there be writings that challenge not just interpretation, but the very foundation of Jewish, Christian, and Islamic belief? Archaeologists who have probed around the mount hint at carved niches and sealed stone chests, suggesting storage spaces that may once have held scrolls or tablets. Yet because the area beneath the Dome of the Rock is untouchable, no official excavation has ever confirmed what lingers there. This silence fuels speculation. Some believe the texts, if found, could contain alternate commandments, accounts of creation older than Genesis, or even records of a civilization erased from collective memory. And that is what terrifies religious and political leaders alike. Writings that don't fit the accepted canon aren't just curiosities, they're threats. They raise questions nobody is ready to confront. Did prophets edit the past? Did rulers suppress stories that clashed with their authority? Were ancient truths buried not because they were lost, but because they were too dangerous to reveal? For now, the dome of the rock stands gleaming above the secrets it may be guarding. But the thought lingers. If those forbidden texts exist, unlocking them could change everything we thought we knew about God, history, and ourselves. The scientific anomalies nobody can explain. For all the talk of hidden vaults and forbidden texts, what unnerves scientists most about the Temple Mount are the anomalies they can't explain. Beneath the stone plazas and holy shrines, instruments have picked up faint but undeniable irregularities. Magnetic fields that fluctuate without pattern. Pockets where ground-penetrating scans suggest empty chambers but then yield nothing. And shifts in resonance that imply the presence of hollow spaces far larger than expected. These are not the kind of glitches researchers can brush off as ordinary interference. Some readings suggest underground voids stretching far beyond the known cisterns and tunnels. Others show energy signatures that pulse like a heartbeat, as if the very rock beneath the mount is alive in some inexplicable way. Theories abound: geological fault lines, unusual mineral deposits, even remnants of lost technology, but none quite fit the data. Adding to the mystery, visitors often report strange experiences near certain areas: compasses that spin erratically, electronic devices that flicker out, and even feelings of dizziness or unease that vanish once they step away. Scientists investigating such claims admit the patterns are inconsistent, yet too frequent to dismiss outright. The implications are staggering. If natural, they may point to geological phenomena we barely understand. If artificial, they could suggest ancient engineering so advanced it defies modern comprehension. And if linked to the rumored chambers, then the anomalies might be the faint echoes of something deliberately hidden deep below. For now, researchers are left with puzzles rather than answers. But one thing is clear: the Temple Mount doesn't just hold mysteries of faith. It hums with scientific riddles that refuse to be explained. Have you seen or been to this place? If so, share with us your experience in the Temple Mount. For more stories like this, subscribe to the channel